Hi, friends. It's Mrs. Bird again. I am excited to join you for another week. This was actually supposed to be, when I was planning it, this was actually going to be just session one of a two-part session for this week. And then as I was building and planning and finding text, I realized that it was far too much work. And so I actually am breaking this up into a 2 week. So this is actually going to be the only mini lesson for this week. And then I really want you to spend time practicing reading as much as you can. And of course, you'll do what mommy and daddy tell you. Um, but the only way that you can really get better at thinking deeply about characters and about text is to read a lot of text. And so that's how I want you to spend the majority of your time. Last week, we really stopped to take notice of our characters' feelings and the things that happened in the story that caused our characters to have feelings that changed throughout the course of the story. And this happens usually because every story has to have a problem, right? And when a character encounters a problem, they have to find a way to solve it. And it would make sense that their feelings might change as they go about doing that. So, today, what I want to talk to you about are something that goes along with feelings. A lot of times, our feelings are the catalyst for the actions. The way that we act is often driven by our feelings. So, our feelings, when we're reading and we're just noticing the illustrations, the facial features, we're kind of swimming on the surface. And what I want us to do now is dive a little bit deeper into noticing traits of our characters. So you have already watched that Brain Pop video where you talked about noticing things about characters. And I want to walk you through today character traits and beginning to notice characters' words and actions and forming opinions about who they are. Okay, I'm going to get rid of my browser here. So, traits are the words that we use to describe us, the kinds of people that we are, the things that we do. And in a text, we notice the dialogue, what the characters are saying, and how they are acting, how they treat others, how they respond to problems. And that helps us to think about the kinds of people that they are. It helps us to make connections to our own lives, to other people that we know, to other characters and other stories that we've read. And all of these things happen when we take time to think while we're reading. So that's the big idea. Is reading is not a race, guys. I want you to slow down. I want you to pick books that you're really interested in reading. Take the time to really get to know the characters. We're going to practice with some dialogue. And so I'm going to pull out some pieces of dialogue and we're going to do some thinking about what we can tell about this person based on what they say. Okay, so I'm going to pull out the first one. Sarah helped Jan up after she fell running to the line. Okay, I want you to think for a minute. If you have an adult with you, you can share with each other. Sarah helped Jan up after she fell running to the line. We could say that Sarah is, what are you thinking? Here's what I was thinking, and I thought it would be a good idea maybe for us to kind of start keeping track. Let me make this white over here. I was thinking that Sarah is a very kind or helpful person. Do you agree with that? Okay, let's try another one. Joel went home and finished all his homework before going outside to play. We want to think a little more deeply than words like good. A student who goes home and sits down, does all their work before they play, we might use the word responsible. I'm going to keep pulling pieces of dialogue out of here. And when I do, feel free to go ahead and pause the screen and have a discussion with the adult who is with you. Or if you are by yourself, you can pause it and just talk to Mrs. Bird. I won't really be able to hear you, but at least I know that you're doing that thinking. All right, here we go. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, they're getting all stuck together. Nick pushed Dan out of line to get in front. What do you think? I have a feeling that you may have chosen this word mean. And I want you to think about better words than just mean. I agree. It was mean. We might even say, oh, that was so mean. Why did you do that? But I think a better word that I was thinking of to describe him is that he is a really rude child. And when I think about traits of a person, it helps me as a reader to make predictions. So if I was reading a story about Nick, and I know that in the story, he wanted so badly to just get in the front of the line that he just pushed Dan out of the way. And that was a very rude thing to do. I can make predictions about how he might act the next time he gets into a situation. Like, what if he was having in a competition and he was in a race? He might trip another student, or he might do something else negative to make sure that he's first. So, rude is a really good word to describe Nick in this example. All right, let's see here. I think we have a couple more. Trey gave Sal his goggles because his eyes were burning. In this situation, Sal didn't have his own goggles, so Trey gave up his. What does that tell us about the kind of person he is? He's a good friend. I would want to have a friend who would think of me that way. But I'm thinking there might be a better word to describe someone who um, who helps their friends, gives up what they have for someone else. I think maybe we could say that he is considerate or giving. Maybe you came up with another different word. All right, let's try one more before we head on. Amir called Emily and asked her to the movies. Was your first thought the word nice? Amir is nice. I agree. He is nice. But again, just like mean, we don't want to overuse that word if sometimes there's a better word that we can use. The word that I'm thinking of is friendly. I also think maybe he's kind. We don't know the rest of the situation. Maybe she's new to the school or the neighborhood. Maybe they are friends, but that certainly was a friendly thing to do. All right, let's go over here and let's oh, I just noticed another mistake, guys. Please forgive me. This should say words on this screen, and that screen should have said actions. So we just studied the things that characters or people are doing, and now we're going to study things that people say, the dialogue in the story, which is really important. So I'm going to pull up some things. We're going to do it exactly the same. A character that says to another character, I'm so sorry your goldfish died. What are you thinking? Is there a word that we could use to describe um, somebody who says that to their friend? Considerate, thoughtful, understanding when you're able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Do you want to come and eat lunch with us? What do you think for that? Friendly? That's what I was thinking. No, it's mine, and you can't have any. Boy, that character really is selfish. Oh, greedy is another word. Selfish and greedy. People who have and don't want to share with others are selfish, greedy. They think about themselves, not the kinds of characters that I would want to be friends with. I'll fix your lamp. After all, I broke it. Well, this character is offering to help and admitting that he broke something. Well, that sure is honest and responsible. Notice that we are hearing some of the same trait words on both examples. I want you to play with me at recess, not Sarah. Well, that still sure sounds like she doesn't want to share. And when somebody doesn't want to share, we could say that they are being selfish. Are you kind of getting it? What are you thinking? Remember, you can go back and watch this again. You can reach out to Mrs. Bird for help. But guess what we're going to do now? We're going to read a small piece of text, and we're going to stop and think about what we're learning about the character from their words and their actions. Okay? I'm going to get my highlighter ready. So as I notice things, I can go ahead and annotate my text. Let's move me out of the way. It might be a good idea if you want to go ahead and pause the video and read this piece of text by yourself so you can kind of start thinking about your own ideas before you hear Mrs. Bird think out loud. So go ahead and pause if you want. I'm going to go ahead and start reading and show you how I might stop while I'm reading to think about what's going on and think about what I'm learning about the character. One day, Kevin was walking to the library. While he was walking, he accidentally bumped into a man holding two large grocery bags. "Excuse me, I'm so sorry, sir," he said. "Here, let me help you carry some of those bags to your car." I'm going to stop here because something happened. He bumped into a man accidentally, and then I'm interested to take note of how he handled it. He didn't ignore it and keep walking. He stopped and he apologized. And then he noticed that the man was struggling, so he offered to help. So I think about the way that he spoke to the man. And one of the things that I could say is that Kevin is respectful. Did you notice that he used the word sir when he was addressing the adult? He said, "Excuse me," and then he offered to help. So I'm going to add here, helpful. He didn't have to take time to help that man with his bags. I'm going to start reading from here. Kevin took one of the bags and walked with the man to his car. Then he started walking towards the library again. He waited on the crosswalk for a traffic light to turn green. He looked down and noticed a wallet. He picked it up and opened it. Inside was $100 and a woman's driver's license. When he got there, he gave it to the man at the front desk, who called the owner. Kevin picked out 3 new chapter books to read, and while he was there, 3 new picture books to read with his younger sister, Chloe. Wow. Okay. So what do we know happened next? He was walking towards the library, and he stopped at a crosswalk and waited for the traffic light. That tells me that he is a rule follower, that he is responsible, He doesn't run across the street, which would be dangerous. While he's standing there, he finds a wallet and he picks it up and sees there's $100. But he doesn't keep it for himself, does he? He takes it with him, gives it to the people at the library so that they could call the owner who could then come and get their money. So he took it with him to the library, and when he got there, he gave it to the man. And again, I'm thinking he's very responsible. Notice that he didn't take it to that woman's house alone because she is a stranger and that would have been unsafe. So that was responsible of him. He made a good choice about solving that problem. So I'm going to add here, he's definitely responsible. He didn't keep the money, which he could have. Nobody would have seen or nobody would have known. And that tells me that he's very honest. And then after all of that, he picks out new chapter books. So it tells me that he likes to read. That's something that we have in common. But he didn't just pick out for himself. He picked out books for his sister too. That tells me that he's helpful, he's caring of his sister, and he's very thoughtful because he didn't just think of himself. He thought of the man with the groceries. He thought about the woman whose wallet he found. He's thinking about his sister Chloe. He's thoughtful. So there are a lot of really positive traits here based on this character. And so I don't want to just stop here, guys. I don't want to just stop and say, okay, I did what you said. Here's some words to describe him. Now I want to kind of put it all together and form my big, bold opinions of the character in my story. Some of the things I think about are, am I like this character? I like to think so. Would I want this character to be a friend of mine? Does this character remind me of another character that I read about in another story? Or does this character remind me of someone else that I know? My big opinion of Kevin is that he is a very kind, thoughtful person. He's very responsible. He's going to do the right thing. So I could predict that if I continue to read about Kevin in other stories or other small pieces of text, that he would continue to do the right thing. When somebody, asked if they could cheat off of his paper, what would Kevin say? I bet he would say, no. We can learn about our characters, and that helps us to understand them more deeply and helps us to make predictions about what might happen. That's the big idea, guys. On the next part, so when you scroll down to the next part after this lesson, you're going to read a small piece of text, and I want you to be able to do the same kind of thinking. At the bottom, it's going to ask you to answer some questions about the characters in that text, and that's what you're going to submit to me today, or excuse me, this week, so that I can kind of keep track. The rest of the week, I just want you to read, and I want you to keep thinking about your characters, noticing what they're saying and doing. Talk about it with an adult or someone else. And then remember, if you want to read with Mrs. Bird, we can set up a time to meet and read together and talk about what you're learning about your characters. All right, guys, I miss you. That's enough for one day. Thank you for your patience and your hard work. I love you. I miss you. I hope that you are well. Mwah. Bye-bye.